It just seemed like a normal fire at first.
In November of 2018, the wildfire that would become the largest in California history was fast approaching Ponderosa Elementary School. Most of the students had been picked up by their family members, but by the time they were forced to evacuate the campus, 22 children still remained. In that critical moment, bus driver Kevin McKay stepped up. With help from teachers Mary Ludwig and Abbie Davis, he loaded the students into a school bus and set off to escape the flames.
My main focus at that point was that I'm not leaving until each of these kids is back together, reunited with their families.
McKay navigated through blazes as Ludwig and Davis tended to the terrified kids, even picking up a stranded preschool teacher along the way. As smoke filled the vehicle, the teachers tore one of McKay's shirts apart and doused the fabric in water to create makeshift breathing apparatuses. Thanks to their quick thinking, everyone on board survived the terrifying ordeal after 5 extraordinarily stressful hours. That's just one of the many stories from the Camp Fire wildfire, which changed thousands of lives forever and turned ordinary people like McKay into heroes. At around 6:15 on the morning of November 8, 2018, the Pacific Gas and Electric Grid Control Center noted an interruption on one of their Caribou-Palermo lines near Polga, California. Later, Cal Fire investigators would determine that the interruption was caused by a failed C-hook, which led to molten aluminum and steel falling to the dry brush on the ground and starting a fire. According to Butte County's Camp Fire public report, a second fire started 2.6 miles west of the first fire and ignited when a pine tree fell onto and broke a distribution line. The second fire was soon engulfed by the first. According to the bulletin of the American Meteorological Society, the strong northeasterly winds allowed the fire to easily expand. Within 2 hours, it had reached the northeast border of the town of Paradise. In the first 24 hours alone, the fire raged through 70,000 acres of land, and it was only contained after 17 days. By that point, the wildfire had burned through almost 154,000 acres. As of 2025, the 2018 Camp Fire wildfire remains the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in the history of California. The Camp Fire public report concluded that 84 people died as a result of the man-made disaster, while 3 people, 2 civilians and 1 firefighter, suffered severe injuries. One person, Sarah Martinez Fabila, was never found after the Camp Fire wildfire, and to this day she is still considered missing. According to CNBC, over 18,800 structures were destroyed in the fire across several towns. Paradise, which had a population of 27,000, was almost entirely burnt to the ground. So were the neighboring towns of Concow and Magalia. The disaster also ended up being incredibly costly. German insurance company Munich Re reported that the wildfire caused $16.5 billion in overall losses. For many of the survivors, there was little relief even after the fires had subsided. Despite some aid being made available from the state and federal governments and nonprofits, they would require paperwork that existed only as ash in a burnt-down town. As Vox reported, others found themselves missing deadlines for aid that they never even knew existed until it was too late. One survivor told the outlet that for those without renter's insurance, there was, quote, literally nowhere to go. The Camp Fire wildfire was already terrifying for citizens of Paradise, but for those dealing with health conditions who couldn't leave Feather River Hospital on their own, it was particularly horrific.
This is what's left of the cardiology unit. You can see twisted steel and debris. There's really not much left.
Obviously, those people had to get out of there and get out of there fast. It was thanks to the actions of brave medical professionals that they were able to evacuate so quickly with such little notice, as nurses filled their personal vehicles with as many people as they could as quickly as possible. Daryl Wilkin was one of those nurses. He and his 3 passengers, 2 of whom were already in critical condition before the fire became a problem, almost didn't make it out. His vehicle was surrounded by flames as he attempted to drive out of the Paradise area, with the scorching heat making the windows impossible to touch. The car very slowly made its way through the crowded roads in flames, passing cars that had caught fire. Fearing the worst, the car's 4 occupants all placed goodbye calls to their families. Thankfully, after 3 hours of careful driving and waiting, the party was safely evacuated. Wilkin told CBS News, "I didn't want to lose anybody. We have not just an obligation to our patients, but we have an obligation to humanity. We have to do our jobs, regardless of adverse conditions." Nurses weren't the only heroes at Feather River Hospital that day. Brad Brown, the resident chaplain, arrived at work just after the evacuation efforts had started. He helped the most seriously ill patients in ambulances that would transport them to other hospitals. But once they'd run out of ambulances, Brown pulled up his Honda Odyssey minivan and gathered 4 passengers: the hospital's respiratory therapist, 2 intensive care unit patients, and another in hospice care placed in the back of the vehicle on a gurney pad. For 2 hours, Brown's party was stuck in traffic on the road leaving the hospital. Cars around them had burned up, visibility was no more than 20 feet, and flames slapped against the outside of the van. After the respiratory therapist couldn't handle the traumatic stress of waiting, she ran back to the hospital, opening up a free seat for a stranded motorist whose escape car had run out of gas.
And so I called my son and said, I love you, and I don't know that I will see you again, but just know that you're important to me.
Then, finally, traffic started to move. After waiting instructions in a Kmart parking lot, Brown was directed to a hospital in nearby Chico to drop off the patients. Much like Brad Brown, Nurse Nichole Jolly also got to Feather River Hospital in the midst of evacuation.
Is it safe to stand here like this? I don't know if it's safe anywhere. We're to lose the hospital.
She jumped into action, getting them into wheelchairs and out of the building so they could be driven off the premises. It was only once everyone was gone that Jolly got into her car and attempted to leave the hospital herself. That proved impossible as every path had become blocked by flames. She was trapped. As her car became inhospitable due to toxic smoke, Jolly called her husband to say goodbye to him and their children, but he refused to accept it.
And he said, don't die, run, get out of your car and run. And I said, okay.
Jolly took off, dashing down the road until her clothes caught fire. She found temporary relief in a car belonging to a colleague, which they both had to abandon when it became overwhelmed with smoke. Once more, Jolly ran through hot, smoky air that offered little oxygen as her shoes gradually burned from the hot pavement. Just after she thought she couldn't go any further, she was rescued by a fire truck on its way back to Feather River, which was still untouched by the fire and treating the first patients injured by the disaster. Jolly performed emergency nursing duties for several more hours until the fire reached the hospital and she was evacuated. Even before local authorities delivered the evacuation order, Allyn Pierce saw the ominously dark and orange-colored sky in the early hours of November 8th. An intensive care unit nurse manager at Feather River Hospital, Pierce got a head start on escorting the most vulnerable people out the door.
Evacuating a hospital, I could best describe it as controlled chaos.
While Pierce's patients were the first evacuees, he was among the last to leave the hospital, making multiple checks on rooms to ensure that all of them had been removed. Only then did Pierce leave the grounds in his heavy-duty pickup truck, taking with him a few people who had no other way of leaving. After encountering gridlock evacuation traffic, Pierce attempted to take a shortcut to a highway out of town by driving through a gully, which was aflame by the time he got there. Nevertheless, he soldiered on, pushing through the fires of the ravine amid burned cars and homes for a mile before connecting with a fire truck and leaving his passengers in the care of first responders. Pierce didn't really have anywhere to go at that point, as abandoned cars blocked the roads and the fires grew ever closer. With his vehicle burning around him, Pierce changed course and headed back to the hospital, where he aided in assembling an emergency treatment site in the parking lot. As the campfire began to descend on Paradise, lots of people were still sleeping, like the all-senior population of the Apple Tree Village mobile home park. Maintenance manager Stephen Murray ran from room to room like a West Coast Paul Revere, knocking on doors to wake everyone up in time. Then it occurred to Murray that those who hadn't responded to his fervent knocking had slept through his warning, so Murray switched from his hand to his foot, as he told the Chico Enterprise record. If people's cars were still in their driveways, they began kicking down doors. Murray's quick thinking cleared Apple Tree Village, saving the lives of its 287 residents. Once he arrived at his final evacuation spot of Reno, Nevada, he parked his pickup truck at a hotel to gather donated supplies and drove them back to the Paradise Fire Shelter in Chico. In 2019, an investigation led by the Butte County District Attorney found that the 2018 campfire wildfire was caused by PG&E's outdated power lines, faulty maintenance, and failure to follow state regulations. The public report found that the C-hook that broke was at least 97 years old, and because PG&E had no records of said hook, they didn't even know what type of metal it was made out of. It stated, "The fact that PG&E was using a 97 to 100-year-old conductor for which they knew almost nothing is evidence of absolute indifference on the part of PG&E."
They knew that they had this problem. That's the negligence portion of this, choosing to ignore.
After facing criminal charges of 84 counts of involuntary manslaughter and 1 felony count of unlawfully starting a fire, PG&E pled guilty to every single charge in June of 2020. in addition to waiving the company's right to appeal. As part of the plea deal, PG&E was ordered to pay a fine of $3.5 million, as well as a $25.5 billion settlement to compensate victims, their families, and responders. This wasn't the first fire caused by PG&E either. Business Insider reported that between 2013 and 2019, PG&E power lines caused over 1,500 wildfires in California. In 2020, the California Public Utilities Commission also imposed a $1.93 billion penalty. It's the largest ever on PG&E for the wildfires it caused between 2017 and 2018. Even though it's been 7 years since a Camp Fire wildfire, the people of Paradise and other nearby communities still feel its effects to this day.